they came back about 2 days later, and man, they were all shook up and everything. And I know this fellow pretty well. And
right.
He went and had a few drinks in the bar. I don't know how many few there were, but anyway, but he grabbed a hold of her, and he would run from one side of the dance was in the mess hall.
Right.
It took all the time. He'd run like that, and they slide. They come back and then they slide. She'd be waving at me.
Yeah. Get me away from this guy.
I waved back at her.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Yep.
Well, y'all have seen the show that I do on television?
Yes.
Yeah, the Veterans Show. We've been doing it for. I've done 26 shows now, as a matter of fact, and really enjoyed it. It's really been quite rewarding for me, and I think for the people that I've talked to also.
Yeah. Well, everybody's got a story.
Sure.
I think that.
Yes.
And I met Yolanda, and we got married, and about 3 years after our marriage, we were going through some photos and so forth, and I think
No, it's not here.
not here.
Yours isn't either. It's not on yours either.
And she says, "Well, this is the plane I saw shot down. This was at
Crossing the Rhine River.
assault of the Rhine River,
Right.
and they were on the
We were on the hill.
western side on the hill, and we were pulling the gliders up around between there, and we got hit pretty badly. We had 2 gliders behind us, and so they saw what was happening to us. They cut off and flew into Germany. We turned around, came back into Germany too, but that was on the Belgian side.
Right.
And we landed and wheels down. Nothing particularly bad. Both engines were shot off. Were shot up. So we walked out on the pasture, so to speak, and we're going out there. We see a British tank coming to us, and the guy waving to us, hey, yelling to us, and finally he got close enough that we could understand, and he said, "Hey, you bloody Americans, you're in the bloody minefield, stay where you are."
Oh my.
So we froze right there.
I'll bet you did.
Well, anyway, that was.
So you were a navigator?
Yes.
B-24s?
Well, I was a pathfinder, see, which meant that I would go from one unit to another unit depending on what the mission was going to be. And so I really wasn't settled into one place, except that I got mail in one area.
Right.
And so I flew B-17s mostly.
I see.
B-24s and B-25s, but only one in a B-26. We called the B-26 a prostitute of the air.
I see.
Because no visible means of support. They were fast, but they were not. Did not take much punishment.
Right.
Honey,
Right.
why don't you move the table over? Give Tom a little space.
Oh, I'm okay. I can just.
No.
What do you want?
Move the table over.
No, I'm fine now.
Yeah, it's no problem.
I'm great now.
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah,
Here,
there.
I'm fine now. That's good. Okay. That's good. But on this, I was fascinated by one thing that Bill Youngkin wrote about the hell of Ploesti. Is that right?
Oh, Ploesti.
Ploesti.
Yeah.
Ploesti. Now you were in a B-24 at that time. Is that right?
B-24s, yeah.
And that was kind of a fouled up mission.
It sure was. We trained for it for months, not months, but weeks. And then on the day of the mission, we had some visiting officers come, and one of them was a navigator, of course he was a general, and I was a lieutenant.
Right.
He said, "Well, I'm going to lead the way." Okay, but we had mapped out that we would go over a certain village, 2 villages that were there, and make a left turn, so to speak, and approach the target
coming from the northeast. Well, he got kind of lost and he made the turn too soon. And when he finally realized he was too far out, then he made a turn. In the meantime, we're coming this way. We were at 6,000 feet and they were at 8,000 feet. They dropped their bombs through our formation. Yes, it was about out of 160 planes, we lost 84.
Right.
Okay. And that was only one raid that we made on them.
Right. 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 How many times during the war were you shot down? Or were you?
Well, I was actually I bailed out 3 times.
Uh-huh.
And we ditched in the North Sea once, and one time we landed in Holland, right on the border of Holland and Germany.
Right.
That's when I spent the night in the manure pile.
Right. Right.
And
it was a bunker that was
like
camouflaged by manure, right?
By manure. There were 3 RAF boys in there, waiting there too. And then, we landed twice with our wheels down, so that doesn't count as a thing. But so we were shot down 4 times, but then I landed in 4 planes that we brought back that never flew again. And so I had a charmed life. I will say that I did not get hurt at any time.
That's got to be amazing to you that
we've had
everything you went through.
People that were wounded and some that were killed on board, but we always got back one way or the other kind of thing.
We're charmed. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. Now you were a nurse, right? In Ohio? Is that where you?
Yes, registered nurse, Ohio.
Right. But you wanted to go overseas. We were a little bored with it on stateside. Is that right? Or
Well, I was in West Virginia at the time being, and I was superintendent of nurses.
Right.
And I only did that to please my father because I had told him I was going to join the Army, and he was just furious about it. So anyway, I joined the Army from West Virginia.
Right.
And the Army point blank told me that I would never get out of the United States, and I would be stationed at a hospital somewhere in the United States.
Right.
And I said, don't count on it. And this man looked at me he said, well, you have flat feet and you have eyesight deficiency. I said, it's never bothered me before. I said, it's not going to bother me now. And he said, what do you mean? I said, I'm going across somewhere. He said, I'm not staying in the United States. He said, well, it says here that you are limited. I said, I don't care what it says. So I did.
Right.
Tell them about when you were boarding the ship.
Oh yes, I was boarding the ship to go overseas, and a motorcycle person came and yelled my name, and I said, what do you want me for? And he said, well, these are for you. And there were 2 pairs of glasses, and I looked at them and I laughed. I said, this is going to help me? And they had the darndest time anyway with my name, because usually when you board ship and so forth, you always board with your last name.
Right.
Then they ask you for your first initial.
Right.
Well, my first initial is Y. And these people just thought I was making fun of them because I'd say why. And then they would ask me, and by the 3rd time I'd say, my name is Yolanda. It begins with a Y.
Like the old Abbott and Costello, who's on first?
Right.
Why? Why? Because we need your name.
So anyway, but I had made up my mind when I joined the Army that I would go overseas. And
right.
Of course, everyone said, how did you manage that? And I said, carefully.
Yes. Yes.
Well, the whole thing is I didn't break any rules, I just bent them. And my chief nurse was glad to get rid of me. I didn't do any bad things, but I did things which he didn't care about.
Right.
And I thought, well, if you don't like him, you know what you can do. And she did. So she moved me into an evacuation hospital, which was fine.
Right. Right.
I didn't want to stay at a general hospital. That was not my idea.
So your initial assignment was in England, is that right?
No.
Or
When I was here
when
in
you
the
went
States,
overseas?
my initial assignment was with the 100th evacuation, and we went to Fleetwood, England,
Okay.
to get our group together.
I see. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. And from there, where?
From there, we went to France,
Okay.
July the 14th.
And
And that was not very much space at that
No.
time. Believe me, they hadn't bombed St. Lo at that time.
right.
And we slept quite a few nights on the grass with a blanket, one below us and two of us sleeping with a blanket above us. But that was okay.
So you were traveling around looking for people to take care of, or looking
No,
for the wound, or
we
were
were-
they coming to you? Or
No, at this time we were looking for a place to set the hospital up. We hadn't
Okay.
had orders yet where we were supposed to be. This was during travel time.
Right.
And we
You went
landed
over, you got to France 30 days after
D-Day.
D-Day.
Yeah. And on my trip to being in France and so forth, I was asked, we were asked, a whole bunch of us were asked out to a Navy boat to have dinner at night, which we all went because we didn't want K rations. And on the way back, I fell between two boats in darkness.
I mean, going from one boat to the other?
Yes, because
Yeah,
one was an LCI and one was an LVT or something, a landing
one
craft.
was an LST, which
Yeah.
is what you were on. LST is landing ship
Right.
tank.
Yeah.
Right.
And an LCI is a landing craft infantry.
Tree, yeah.
Uh-huh.
We had to jump 16 feet from one to the other, down.
I see. 16 feet, that's quite a ways.
Yes, that is quite a ways.
Wow.
And on the way down, the boats separated, and I fell between them.
And somebody noticed you down there? Did they?
Well, they said, "Where are you?" And I said, "Down here." And they said, "Why don't you yell?" And I said, "I'm saving my breath." And fortunately, knowing I didn't scare me because I was raised around water and I'd been
Right.
pushed off of break walls, and so it didn't frighten me. Thank goodness that somebody else in my troop had not, because there were other people who were actually scared to death of water.
Right.
And anyway, I knew that at that time that these boats had a lot of cables, or it was one of those kind of things that you just sort of knew that they had cables in there. And as I went down, I reached and I was into my waist with water, but I was hanging onto a cable from the ship. But the thing which frightened me more than anything else is getting into the propeller.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I mean, that was the thing
Yeah.
that really, I thought, don't you dare go down any further than your waist.
Right. Right.
And then I told them I was down there, and they said, "Well, come on up." And I said, "I'm not moving at all. You come down and get me." So they did.
Now, what was the circumstance that you all met? It was at a party, right?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, this was
Week
4
after
days
D-
after D-Day. And I had been flying almost continually during that time. We actually left France, or left England for France at 2 o'clock in the morning on June 6th, I
Right.
think. So it was still, and that's when we dropped the 82nd Airborne troops. And we came back, and then we would catch a cup of coffee, something to eat, and debrief, and then get in a plane, fly again. This went on for 3 days. Finally, on the third day, the CO says, "We're not flying tomorrow. I'm not flying with him." So, well, great, let's have a party. I said, "Yeah, let's have a party." So we had the officers' club there, such as it was. But anyway, he said, "You can't have a party without women." I says, "Well, we got some nurses coming down from, Fleetwood, England, which is up there near Liverpool. They're coming down to Southampton, where they're going to board ship and go across the channel. And they're going to stop here for the night, or close by." anyway, they were about, 15 miles away, or 10 miles away from our base. But anyway, we sent some trucks to pick them up and come down. There were about 25, 30 nurses, I guess, that came along. And then in the meantime, we opened up our mess hall, so that we took all the seats out and everything, and had a dance floor.
Cornmeal.
Put some cornmeal on the floor, thing, and we sent the trucks to pick them up. Well, they got lost in the dark, and it took them a little while. It took them about an hour longer to get than they should have been. So in the meantime, everybody had a few drinks, so to speak. So when they came, they were. Some of them were pretty bleary-eyed, like the glider pilots, particularly, that had returned, and so we had the party that day, and after I rescued her from the
Glider pilot.
we got to talk to more and more together, and I said, well, if I write to you, will you write to me? She looked and says, yeah, I'll write to you as a brother.
Exactly what I said. I'll write to you as a brother.
That's not what you wanted to hear.
But the next morning, we got orders to get our unit ready to go down to Civitavecchia, Italy, to get ready for the invasion of southern France, and have D-Day there, which is supposed to be in a month. So when I got back to England, she was in France. When I got back to France, she was in Belgium. She's been following Patton's army.
She was staying a step ahead of you.
Right, all the way.
When I got to Belgium, she was in Holland. From Belgium, I went to Germany. Then we came back to France. She went into Germany and stayed there for quite a while and come back.
Then we came home.
Came home from there. But the 100th evacuation hospital is, I don't know if you understand what it is. It's the first good medical
Facility after
facility.
first aid.
First aid, they pick them up off the battlefield and put a Band-Aid on them or whatever, and then bring them over to the hospital. And there you have each person was evaluated as to what he would, can he live, can he not live, can he be patched up and go back to his unit or whatever. And that was her job.
That was a triage, right?
Yeah, triage. Yeah.
So, and the 100th evac was attached to Patton's armies.
Right.
So we were busy.
I bet. Yeah.
And most of the time they were only 2 or 3 miles behind the so-called front lines.
Right.
So how many patients did you get on the middle of a big battle?
Sometimes up to 1,000.
Wow. All at one time?
Well, no, but 24 hours.
Oh, yeah. Right.
In 24 hours.
Yeah.
And we worked 8 hours on and 8 hours off.
Right.
Because our Colonel Kirkendall had been in World War I. And he came to the conclusion that working 12 hours at a time was not efficient.
Right.
So he put us on 8 hours, which was better.
Yes.
A lot of people couldn't understand that, but 8 hours actually was much better. You weren't as tired either.
Right.
How big were your tents for the hospital tents?
Well, they had close to 40 beds in one tent.
No, but the operating rooms.
Oh, we had 3 or 4 operating rooms. So I can't tell you, but I know that we had over 400 people that worked at an evacuation hospital. So this was no small deal.
Right.
It doesn't say there.
I thought you had a picture of it. You do have a picture of it.
Yeah,
somewhere.
but that's how big it was. And this
Here
consists.
she is in younger days.
Yeah. Yep. All right. And we had, we had corpsmen, and we had pharmacists, we had dental, we had x-ray, we had everything that you could think of that we had.
It was a lot like the movie that they had,
MASH.
MASH, only no helicopters, they were all ambulances that
Right.
would come.
Right.
So.
And this was the 100th right here.
And 4 nurses lived to each tent.
Were you ever strafed?
Oh yes, and bombed.
A lot. I mean,
Well, we didn't think it was a lot, but the thing is, when you've got a great big red cross on top of your tents,
Right.
and you're getting strafed,
it's a lot.
it's enough to make you think.
Exactly.
And particularly when you find holes when you get back from being on duty
Yeah.
in your tent.
Right.
It makes you think twice that you're glad that you weren't there.
Sure.
We had to patch up our tents because of it. But this was deliberate. I mean, there was no ifs and ands about it. These people that strafed us definitely knew we were a hospital. We were the only thing there on the road to Germany when this plane came and strafed us. I mean, there wasn't any reason for him to do so.
Right.
It was a deliberation done.
Right. Right. But now, as the triage nurse, Bill wrote, or you told him that was a pretty overwhelming job.
It is. Because you
Right.
have to make up your mind that the people that you think should get care right away aren't the ones that get the care. So you have to think of the ones that are going back on duty.
Right.
And you hopefully think that you've saved the serious ones long enough that they can get care.
Right.
You don't want to be overwhelmed with people that you just want to patch up and send back. But you want the serious ones to be taken care of too.
Right. Exactly.
And it gets to the point where you don't want to make those decisions.
Right.
So you ask to be relieved and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Get yourself together again.
Right. Right. And that's what you did.
Yes.
Yeah. And where'd you go after that? What did
Well,
you
after that, I went to general surgery, where
I
I took
see.
care of the people that had surgery, which was fine. But you just need to get away from doing all that
Right.
thinking.
And just be a nurse.
Right.
Right. Right.
Right. So, but
Did you have any civilians coming?
we had children.
Children?
Children. This was the hardest part for us to get. For us to take care of children that stepped on mines.
Oh yeah. Oh.
And this was, I mean, we took children and we gave them priority when it came to that. I mean, there was no ifs and ands. We wanted to save these children and save the limbs as fast as we could. We weren't going to let them wait. And these Frenchmen or Belgian would bring these children in that had stepped on mines. And it's not a good thing.
No.
And I think that's what most of the nurses felt. I mean, a lot of them were mothers and had children, which I couldn't understand how they joined the army and left their kids. But that was neither here nor there.
Right.
But we felt that they were a priority more than anything else.
How about German soldiers?
Oh, I had a whole tent full of German prisoners.
They were hurt that you.
No, these were not.
These are not. These are just prisoners.
Yeah, these were prisoners, and we just had a whole tent full, and I got assigned because we were doing something, and they asked me to.
Oh, your name was Frisch.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And they asked me to take over for about, I think it was 6 or 7 hours, and I was there, and we had one very Nazi officer, and he was nasty. And I listened to him, and I listened to him talking, and then he got through, and I looked at him, and I said, "Ich verstehen Sie." And he just looked at me, and I said, "That's it, I do. I understand you." And I said, "Shut up. Go down, go sit down."
He didn't know you were understanding it.
No, he didn't.
Did you know German? Did you know German well? Or did
Oh
you?
yes.
Yeah.
My grandmother and my father spoke German all the time,
All the time.
when they were at dinner time.
Uh-huh.
And of course, listening to it, you knew pretty well after a couple of years of listening to them talking, you could understand every word they were saying.
Right.
And so I couldn't speak any German,
Right.
but I understood every bit of it.
Yes.
And this is something that everyone was going, you understand? I said, yes, I understand.
Right.
Verstehe. Verstehe.
Now you were you took care of a lot of the wounded from the Battle of the Bulge near War's End.
Yes, we took care of a number of them, but not as many because we were also we were only about 3 miles away from the Bulge. We were close to it.
Yes.
So we were in the process of moving further away. We were moved to Holland because of that.
Right.
So therefore, in the move that we did, we didn't take care of that many patients from the Bulge.
I see, because they were moved farther out.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. But it was very cold, wasn't it?
Well, if you if you have a pot-bellied stove that you get one block of coal
Uh-huh.
per week.
Yeah, our rations per that was, this was Coke. I mean,
Yes.
every person got 4 pounds of Coke per week.
Uh-huh.
If you're in a tent, you know, or
Had a coal stove.
if you had a stove, and so we would all save up our rations for the week, and say, well, this is the coldest day of the week.
So let's have it.
Start a fire and heat the tent up. Then we'd all go take showers and baths and so forth, and get everything done. Everything while the tent was warm.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Right.
And then
Right.
the rest of the week it just froze.
Right.
Well, you had a helmet. You were limited to one helmet full of water per day,
Uh-huh.
and this had to be used for like washing your teeth, you're washing your face, taking a bath, doing your laundry. So think about it. One helmet of water.
So after you all met that one day, you met, you talked, you said, yeah, all right, and then you didn't see each other for a long time.
No, we wrote V-mail.
Yes.
Remember the photographic letters?
Uh-huh.
We wrote to each other in V-mail. And I came home in
August.
August of 45.
Mm-hmm.
And my orders were to go home for 30 days and
You go to Japan?
then get together in San Francisco and head for Japan.
Right.
But VJ Day came along and so forth. So I was discharged, or I could have stayed in the Army, but I think I saw enough and I didn't want to. So I was discharged, and well, what do I do now? You know, I was not a farmer. My folks didn't want to. He knew I was not a farmer, so he didn't press the subject at all. And so I had gone to school for 2 years at Wisconsin State Teachers College in Superior, Wisconsin, which is now part of the university. But I couldn't find a place to live, or even in Madison, Wisconsin. But I could go to Marquette University in Milwaukee. So that's where I went. And they were on a quarter system, so I could get in. They were going to start in October, and so I got in on the October quarter and finished up with it in 3 years there.
Yes.
I had a hard time getting back to studying though the first quarter. I just couldn't concentrate. I'd read a page. I'd even read it out loud so that I could concentrate on it. But it was difficult. I used to be an A student, and I darn near got C's or D's on the thing. And then finally later, towards the second year or so, I began to be able to concentrate and get better grades. And
Well, your first time through, you were a kid. And the second time through, you'd seen an awful lot of life and death.
That's right.
And educated.
Yeah.
I just couldn't concentrate. And even now, I may get a little emotional on this.
That's fine. No, that happens. Yeah.
But there were 27 of us that went over on that Christmas Day to England. Only 7 of us came back. And of the 7, 3 had been wounded and were handicapped.
Right.
And they didn't last long. The 4 of us kind of kept a loose communication between ourselves. But when we had the dedication of the National Memorial in Washington, we went there. And they had a tent set up where you could, if you knew your outfit numbers and so forth, you could plug them into the computer and find out how many people were still left in your unit. Well, unfortunately, there was only 1 left. That was me.
So of those 4, you're the only one that's left now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of hit me
Sure.
a little bit.
Sure. How old are you now?
Now,
Yes.
I'm 84.
84?
Yeah. My wife is 89.
Wow. Is it you went to, you also got degrees from Ohio State, is that right?
Well, that was afterwards.
Yeah.
I mean, after I finished at
Marquette?
Marquette, then I
Right.
went to work for Republic Steel Company.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to work for Sherwin-Williams Company.
Mm-hmm.
And then worked for NASA.
Right.
And that's what brought me back to
Right.
Texas.
And of course, the NASA story, that's a whole another story. You were involved in the development of the heat shield, is that right?
The heat shield on the Apollo missions.
Uh-huh.
On the thing. It was my job to design and develop them to put them on the bottom of the Apollo. Now, the ones that they had on the Mercury, which was
Right.
the previous 2 of them, almost burned through,
Right.
but they didn't. So we were more interested in what we could do with the Apollo because it was a bigger vessel, and fortunately all worked out.
All of them came back.
All of them worked out, even the one that was in trouble,
Right.
Apollo 13.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I was in the
room?
control room
In Houston?
when they had been talking back and forth to Lovell, and then all of a sudden he says, "Houston, we got a problem." And then everybody stopped. It was the way he said it and the sound of his voice. We knew it was something more than just a little problem. And that's when everybody got galvanized into action again.
Right.
So
I heard that
that was
the movie about that was pretty
pretty
on target, wasn't it?
It
on
was.
target.
Right.
Very much so.
Right.
Very much so.
That's what I always heard, that they didn't Hollywood that up very much.
Not much.
No.
And you could see 3 men huddled together in a space a little bigger than this table.
Right.
In the lab. And they sat there for, well, almost 2 days.
Right.
Before
Yes.
impact.
Yeah.
Then when the Apollo missions were over, I came to A&M.
With the physical plant? Is that right?
I was associate director of the physical plant.
I see. And when did you retire?
In 1991.
91.
Yeah.
So you were over there when I came here in 84 with the athletic department. I was the sports information director when Coach Sherrill was here for
I came here
for
in
3 years.
73.
Yeah. Right.
1973.
Right.
And Yolanda was in the
Physiology and Pharmacology Department,
yeah,
doing experimental surgery and research.
Oh, at A&M?
Mm-hmm.
And when did you retire?
Oh. 79?
79?
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been so long. I have to stop and think.
73 is when we came here. You worked there for 10
10 years. But 83.
83 or
It was
84.
83, yeah.
83.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
84.
Because when I applied for the position, they asked me how long I was going to stay, and I said 10 years. And I stayed exactly 10 years. I said, when the 10th year came up, I went and told my boss, I said, I'm going to retire. He said, you can't. And I said, oh yes, I promised you 10 years and I'm retiring.
Y'all have children, grandchildren, or
A child.
one child?
Yeah, Judith Kozlowski.
Uh-huh.
And she is a lawyer and she works
NASD,
NASD.
Mm-hmm.
National Association of Security Dealers.
Right.
And that's what she does.
Right. Where does she live?
Bethesda, Maryland.
In Bethesda?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And she has 2 children.
She has 2 children.
And we have 2 granddaughters.
2 granddaughters.
2 soccer players.
Yes, soccer
2
players.
soccer players.
And one is really a math person. The
Uh-huh.
oldest one, oh, she's terrific when it comes to math.
Right.
The other one isn't, but she has her own way, and she definitely is a person. She loves people.
Yeah.
Now the older one does too, but she's a little more stiff with people.
Right. Right. So how old are they?
7 and 11.
7 and 11.
The oldest one is absolutely the most gorgeous red-headed person you'd ever see. She has all the red-headed things that people need to have red hair. That pale complexion, beautiful red hair, skinny as skinny as she could possibly be. I mean, she's just a model. I mean, everything that she puts on looks gorgeous.
Right.
And the other one is very much a person's person, and she has her own way. She has beautiful dark blue eyes and brown hair, and she is gorgeous in her own way.
Yeah. Do you get to see them much?
Yes, we see them at least every 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. They come here, you go there? Or?
Well, it depends.
Yeah.
They're coming here next month.
I see.
No, we're going there.
Oh, we're going there, and then they're coming the next month.
We're coming here when they have the soccer tournament.
Right. Oh, yeah, for the NCAA?
Yes,
Yeah.
they're coming for that.
Yeah, yeah. That'll get them here, right?
That's right.
A lot of the information that I need I got from Bill's articles, so I don't have to go into that again, but I just wanted to get an overview and sort of hear it from you all too. And I want to see the pictures that you've got, what you have here, because we'll probably use some of this on the show.
Here's something. This is
What do you got?
This is a.
I don't think you see very many of these.
No.
This is a silk
Oh my goodness, look at that.
map of the area, and if you were taken prisoner, hopefully you could find where you were and find your way back. Now, I had.
Okay, that's a dumb question, but why were these made of silk?
Because they didn't deteriorate.
I told you dumb one.
Yeah. The ones I had.
Because it wasn't like paper. Because obviously this looks as in good a shape now as it probably
That's right. Yeah.
was 60 years ago,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, this is hers, and the one I had was made of rice paper.
Right.
If we were captured, we'd chew it up and eat it.
This was given to me by a friend of mine.
I see.
I didn't know you had a friend over there.
Oh, yes. I have a number of friends. This man wrote The Sound and Fury. He wrote, that's the name of the book he wrote about broadcasting.
Right.
Francis Chase.
Okay. Right. I've heard of the book, certainly, yeah.
Yeah. And he also was,
He gave you this?
yes.
Uh-huh.
And also he was in the Spanish War with Ernest Hemingway.
Okay, now I wanted to, because that was in the story about you meeting Ernest Hemingway. You thought he was a little uncouth.
Oh, yes, definitely.
But you knew he wrote some nice books, right?
That's right. But I also heard the story about what he wrote in the book. Yeah.
Now you were introduced to him by John Daly? Is that right?
No, I met Francis Chase.
Oh, Francis Chase. Okay.
Yes. And he's the one who introduced me to all the other people.
Okay.
I met all the correspondents that were in World War II
Right.
through him.
Okay.
Because I went to Paris and he was in Paris and he was at the George V Hotel, and you know what that is.
Uh-huh.
And so...
Did you meet Ernie Pyle?
Yes.
You did?
I met everyone.
You met them all?
Met them all. Uh-huh.
Meet Cronkite?
Yes.
Yeah.
I met everyone who was a correspondent.
You met them all?
I met them all.
I didn't know that.
Well, because he was a correspondent.
Sure.
And he wrote for the New Yorker, and he also
Right.
wrote for other things, and he had several books, and he was a well-known person. I became very good friends with him, and we had lots of good times together. I met him through a fluke. I was I was going with somebody else at the time being, and we went to this French cafe.
Now, who are we talking about now? Talking about Cronkite?
No, I'm talking about Francis Chase.
Still Francis Chase,
Yeah,
okay.
and we went to this cafe, and I was having a drink, and this Francis Chase came in with his driver, because
Right.
he had a Jeep and a driver. And the driver, we said hello, and he was a nice young man and so forth, and I asked him where he was from, and he said he was from Erie, Pennsylvania. And I laughed, and he said, "Why are you laughing at?" I said, "Because I'm from Ashtabula, Ohio." And we became very good friends because of the closeness of where our homes were. And then I met Francis Chase, and the next day he came to visit the unit and introduced himself to our colonel, and the colonel called me over, and I wondered, what in the heck's all this about? And I got there, and Francis was there, and he said, "Well, he wants to take you for a ride," and I gave him my permission. I'm going, "You didn't ask me." But anyway, we became good friends.
Wow.
Yeah. After the war, how'd you get across the Elbe River?
Oh, to the Russian party?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. At the end of the war, the Russians were giving a party, and they wanted some people from the army, and they asked to see both men and women because they thought it would be a good thing for them to know what they felt about it. So I got asked to go by a lieutenant who was going to the party, and I looked at him. I said, "You really think I want to go?" And he said, "Yeah, I think you do." I said, "Okay, I'll go." And I said, "On one thing, I will tell you this much, I'm not going to drink that much because I know the Russians drink." Anyway, we got to this table and we had the dinner, and this Russian colonel was sitting next to me, and of course everybody was drinking vodka. I don't drink vodka. I absolutely hate it. And he said, "You don't?" And I said, "No, I don't. I drink champagne, but not vodka." And he said, "Oh." And I said, "I don't like the taste of it, and I don't drink that much." I said, "Now, when your wife goes to a party, what does she do?" Because I knew he was married. And he looked at me and he said, "Well, she doesn't drink very much." I said, "That's the answer. I don't drink very much either." So I was pretty sober compared to everybody else. I mean, I was sober compared to everybody else. And so I got to talk to a lot of the Russians there, and this Russian that I was sitting next to at the dinner asked me if I had any newspapers from America. I said, "Well, I don't have any with me." I said, "That's something we don't, just carry around with us." And he said, "Well, I'm sorry." He said, "I guess I should have made my wishes known so that someone would bring me a newspaper to read." And I said, "Well, all we get now is Stars and Stripes, and that was our paper that we got." And I said, "And the other papers that we get from home are in our packages more than anything else." And so he asked me all about America, and I think he was really expecting to go to the United States. I mean, just from all the questions he asked me. But it was a wonderful party. We had a good time, and I met lieutenant colonels, I met generals and all that, and so everyone got in this. One general said to me, and I guess he knew English much more than I thought he did, and he was talking about people getting drunk and so forth, and he looked at me and he says, "You aren't." I said, "You're right, I'm not." So they judged, people, when they go to these kind of things, have to realize that they're representing somebody, and they can't get as drunk as some of them did.
Right.
So that's, and that, I thought we were going to something that we were invited to and not to get drunk, just to be a guest. But we had terrible, we're in sad shape.
How did you get across the Elk? Did the
Oh, in a boat.
Was
I
it
know.
an American boat or the Russians sent the boat?
Russians sent the boat, nice little boat that you got in and you think, well, we're only about 3 inches away from the water. That's okay. But we made it. So,
Who made these up for you? Did they?
This was we were supposed to be at the
George Bush Library.
at the
Oh, at the
And
deal
we-
that they had just this
Yeah.
Yeah,
last
and-
month.
we gave them a bunch of
And unfortunately,
prints.
we didn't get back.
Oh,
Yeah, we got them back.
We did not get back for the presentation.
Oh yeah, we did. We got caught by Katrina.
where were y'all?
Well, we were
Bethesda.
Oh, in
coming home
Bethesda.
from Bethesda.
I
And
see.
we couldn't get across Tennessee to Nashville.
I mean, everything was, there was no rooms available. Everybody was up there. So, right.
No, they made that for us.
Right, this is very nice, isn't it?
Now, since the war, since we've been back, we've been giving talks to the various junior high school
Right.
students here
Right.
on the thing about World War II when
Yes.
they were studying World
Yeah.
And also, when we went to Bethesda, they always wanted us to go to visit their classroom. That was to my two granddaughters. And so we give them, we were there
Right.
to give them, and we get nice letters from them. And all the students write us letters
Yeah.
about that.
Thank
Some
you.
of the kids whose fathers were in B-24s and B-17s would come up and talk to me and say, well, my father was a B-24 and a B-17, and he'd talk about it on the thing.
Right.
And it was,
Now, you retired as a captain, right?
Yes.
And you retired as a lieutenant
Captain.
colonel? Captain? Okay. You're both captains. So nobody outranks
But I
anybody
was,
here.
Oh yeah, he outranks me.
I don't know.
I made out right.
So,
What other pictures? I noticed you have that picture that was in the paper. Do you have the print of that picture? Of this one here?
yes.
And you have the print of the one that was used for
Yeah,
you?
I think
Let me see if I can find it.
I'd like to take them and borrow them and give them back to you on Wednesday.
Sure.
I'd like to, if you could find those.
you want us to be there?
We start taping at 1:30. If you could be there about 1:15.
Okay, where is it?
Okay, it's at KAMU TV.
On campus?
On campus.
Oh, okay.
You know where that is? Right on Houston Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one-story building.
Yeah.
If you go past it and take an immediate left after the building, there's a driveway there that takes you back behind KAMU, back behind it.
Okay.
And there's some parking spaces back there that say 24-hour only, and you can park in any of those spaces.
Okay.
And then there's a back door to KAMU that goes up a little ramp, and there's a back door there that you just push the button and they'll let you in.
Yeah.
And so you know where it is. That one-story building right there on Houston Street.
Yeah.
And yeah, if y'all could be there around 1:15, that way they can get y'all mic'd up. And you've seen the show. This will be the first show that I've done with two guests, though. This will be the first one, and I've told them about that. So they'll have two chairs, and I'll introduce you all, and then we'll just have a discussion, much like we're having right now. I'll just lead you in the direction. The problem with this show is there's so much story to tell in just 27 and a half minutes that we have. So we're gonna fast forward through things a lot more than I want to be able to get both of your stories. I want to get both your separate stories and then your stories of how you got together.
Sort of an outline of what I talked with Bill on the thing.
Right.
I don't know where they are right now. Let me.
Those were the bombing runs. Now I never found out where along the coast of Amsterdam, where, see, after we were taken out from a manure pile and went over, we stayed in this Catholic church that had a sub-basement. And we stayed in the sub-basement until the next night, when they took us out to sea.
Right.
So I never knew.
I stayed there for a day. So it smelled pretty right by then.
Yeah.
The next day, 2 Dutchmen put us in a truck and took us to the coast. We spent that night at a sub-basement of a Catholic church. We're taken below deck of a fishing boat the next night. After about 6 hours traveling out to sea, the boat stopped and we were told to come up. The fresh air was wonderful. Boy, I bet it was. Yeah. A British sub surfaced, and y'all were exchanged for a load of fish.
Yeah, the reason is, of course, this fishing boat went out. You better come back with some fish.
Right. Oh, I see. I see.
So, in order to appease the Germans, not appease them, but at least try to fool them.
Yeah.
While we went fishing, we caught all these fish. I never knew, and I still don't know.
Oh, great. Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
How's that?
That's great. That's great. So you were on the fishing boat, and the British sub. So you were transferred to the British sub. Is that right?
Yeah, right.
In exchange for the fishing boat.
And all of us got off the boat, and the submarine had a load of fish ready to give to the fisherman so that he'd come back.
Right.
And not raise suspicions as to what he was doing or where the fish was.
Wow.
I often wondered whether he was ever caught or not, because apparently this was a pretty good setup. They had done this many times because the submarine knew exactly where we were. And our mission to Schweinfurt, that's when we got so badly hit that we got ditched in the North Sea.
Right.
That's when the British Q-boat picked us up. A Q-boat is a torpedo boat, fast torpedo boat.
This was the second time you were shot down.
Yeah.
A ball bearing factory. Because the fighters were not able to follow them over the target because of limitation of their range.
They were too far away, out of range.
But 60 planes were shot down. Managed to cross shoreline over the North Sea. Wrote radio silence to tell them about my estimated crash location. When we crashed, 2 of the men were dead and 3 others wounded. We only had 16 minutes before the plane sank. So we took the wounded off and the dog tags off the dead to take back with us. As the plane sank, we saw a speck on the horizon. It was a British Q-boat. We landed 40 miles from the English coast, so they were able to get us there before. So, so did you just spend some time in the water before the Q-boat got there, or
well, we were in our little rafts.
You were in your rafts
on a thing, and there were 4 men to a raft.
Right.
On the thing.
How many?
Well, there's 10 men in a crew.
Right.
So we had 3 rafts, and there were 8 men and 2 wounded, and we left 2 in the plane.
Wow.
Those were some of the bombing runs we made
Right.
into Germany. Then we made some in France. And
Ed went on 88 missions.
Right, I saw that. So where did you grew up in Wisconsin?
Yeah,
Is that right?
right, on
On a farm?
a farm.
When did you realize you wanted to fly?
Oh, that's when we had that plane coming by on my dad's farm. And he said, Dad gave him permission to let him land there.
Uh-huh.
And he took people from town for rides, and he gave me a ride, and that's when I thought, hey, that's for me.
Yeah.
I thought I wanted, well, I'll be in the war be a big fighter pilot.
Yeah.
And then I was going to fly the airlines, commercial airlines after the war.
Uh-huh.
I had that all planned out, but it didn't work out that way.
You were too old.
So you joined up?
Yeah.
Went to Santa Ana? Bakersfield? What happened in Hondo, Texas?
Well, that was a navigation school.
Oh, really? In Hondo, Texas? I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, there were nothing but tents there. There was nothing.
Right.
No buildings. There was a strip.
Hondo, Texas.
The plane would land, and we'd take these off. We'd go on with this plane, and we'd fly to certain areas where they told us.
Mm-hmm.
Each student, there were 4 in a plane, 4 students, and they'd say, well, we want you to go to such and such a place, map your route. Or then later, I'd say, well, we have a freighter coming in the Gulf. You're to intercept that freighter before such and such a time. So plot your course.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what. So actually, Hondo was not much. There was not much.
There's not much to it now. You know?
Much of it less.
No. And then to Arizona, then to Ellington Field. And that's when you were at Ellington Field.
I got my commission there, and I got it at.
You were there on December 7th, right? Is that right?
That's right.
And they
I
got
think
your
it was
orders.
December 5th or so we got our commission. And
I
I
see.
was to leave December 10th
Right.
for leave to go home. And December 7th came around.
But no more home, right?
No.
You had to.
We went to Maxton, North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
And then from there we went to Bangor, Maine,
Right.
and across to. I spent 6 weeks at Oxford University and never saw the university.
Oh, yeah?
Well, we'd be in class at 7:30 in the morning, it's dark,
Mm-hmm.
until 5:30 in the evening it was dark.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was 7 days a week, and we never got time off.
We went
But we
back.
went there afterwards.
Yes, we did. And
Yolanda
we
and
saw
I went there. In fact, we traveled a lot. And we've been back to where she landed, where you spent the night in a
Field. I knew exactly where it was.
St. Mary Eglise.
So you were flying over the Atlantic on December 24th singing Silent Night? Is that what I'm reading here?
Yeah, we were flying over all of us felt kind of punk, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody
Yeah,
started
you were
singing.
leaving for Christmas and you were heading off to war.
And somebody sang Silent Night. We all joined. Boy, about the time we finished Silent Night, I don't believe there was anybody on there that wasn't crying.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah, because this was 64. You were 20 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were 20, right? 64 years ago. You were 20 years old. Yeah.
I'll tell you something else. It takes 3 missions to make from a boy to a man.
Mm-hmm.
The first mission, you're all set, man. You're really going to get up there. It's like in a first football game. You know?
Uh-huh.
Well, when you come back, you're kind of dazed. You say, God, you can really get killed out there. And the second time, you're a little more cautious, but you're still doing everything more or less by the numbers. You know, well, this is what I'm supposed to do now. This is what I do now. This is kind of programmed at what you're supposed to do. But the third mission, you finally think for yourself as to
Right.
what you have to do. in order. Sometimes you don't do what you're programmed
Right.
to do,
Right.
and that's about. And nearly everybody.
And that's how you survive.
And nearly everybody I talked to said, third mission was when I knew what the hell I was doing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You flew with the RAF.
Just 2 missions.
2 missions.
On a Lancaster plane at night, and that was part of our education.
Right.
And
Everybody I've ever talked to that was in the European theater always talked highly about the British.
yeah, they were.
The soldiers, the stiff upper lip.
Oh yeah.
They were tough people.
They were, and they are.
And they knew how to fly, and they were.
That's right.
You trusted them, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
And they trusted you. I mean, you were in it together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Wow, great story. Okay, can I take these with me?
Sure.
And I'll give them back to you on Wednesday.
Sure.
Because I'm going to try to get them over there to where they can just pop the pictures that I want on the screen. Otherwise, I have to hold them in my lap and they shoot them, which also works too. But I'd rather them actually show up on the screen. And if you would bring that silk map, bring that with you. Will you do that? Can I?
Sure.
Okay. I'll take very good care of these things. I promise you. There's so much to tell. I won't have a lot of time for the pictures, but I do want to put a few up during the thing. Mm-hmm. And like I say, if you ought to be there around 1:15 or so on Wednesday, day after tomorrow.
We're bowling Wednesday morning, but we'll be there.
We'll be there.
We'll be there.
Okay, great. And we just run it right through. We start.
I know.
Whenever they do, we just start and just go, and it takes about 30 minutes. So probably around 2 o'clock, maybe a little after, you'll be done.
Okay.
And I really am honored that y'all are on the show. This is Bill and I. This is only the second veterans that Bill and I have in common that he's done that I've done. I did Frank Coachman.
Oh, we know him.
You know Frank?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I had Frank on my show, as a matter of fact, before Bill did an article on it.
Yeah, we belong to American Legion,
Right.
so we see a lot of these.
Right. And then he's done one more that I had already done, Spec Gammon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, who was in the Battle of the Bulge, as a matter of fact. Yeah, he did that. I'd known Spec for years because he and I had the same job, as a matter of fact. He was sports information director at A&M before I was. I sort of took his place when he retired. But great. Mm-hmm. Well, this will be good. Thank you very much. I've been recording all of this. That's what this thing is.
I knew it was.
That's a recorder.
Uh-huh.
That is a digital